Hi, I'm Bob Vila. Welcome home again to our final visit here in Cambridge, and unfortunately on a very cold and rainy day. We're going to be giving you a complete tour of the interior of the house. Everything is pretty much done, including the green picket fence on the front of the property. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to finish the final touches here on the front porch and entry. But under these blue tarps, we've got some very brave carpenters. Stick around. It's good to have you home again.
Bob Vila's home again.
And under the tarps we have Anthony Forbes and David Ives, both from Fort Hill Construction. And you guys have really, well, these guys have been here since 10 months ago when we started. And even the weather is not slowing you down. Thanks so much. It's going to look fabulous. Let's go inside. All right, let's start the tour in the vestibule. We're very lucky to have this front section of the house with a huge closet here, and Sheila Smaltz from California Closets.
Hi Bob, how are you today?
You know, we had lots of space here, but you've reinterpreted it for us, right?
That's exactly right. We've taken this great entry closet of yours, and it was about 8 feet, so it's a good size space.
Right.
And what we've done is we've created some room for your jackets and coats.
The low space in the corner for my down vests and the like.
Yes.
And then longer coats in the middle.
That's right. And of course you see here the drawers that we've put in the closets, which will help with the gloves and mittens and hats for each member of the family.
That's right. 5 drawers, there's 5 of us. That'll make life easy.
I think it will be perfect for you.
Yeah.
The shelves also will help out with any other hats or things that you might have. So you basically have over 8 feet of space and a great deal more.
Magnificent. Well, you've not only done a great job here, but also throughout the house. I really want to thank you.
Well, it's our pleasure, Bob. Thanks so much.
Okay. Now, the vestibule, which of course didn't have much architectural interest, benefits now from a lot of our architects' designs. But I think one of the key elements that have come into play here is this stenciling around the ceiling, kind of creating a cornice-like effect. Kim Sweet, our artist in residence, took care of this. 19th century rooms often had decorative detailing that was actually painted and stenciled. And here in our little vestibule, Kim Sweet has designed this motif. This will actually be on the vertical on the wall, and this will be up on the ceiling on the horizontal. She's actually getting started. Kim, I want to interrupt you a little bit. Well, I can't interrupt you. You've got to keep on going with the brushwork, I know. But the first step here was to put up all the blue masking tape, right?
Right.
And that must have taken you the better part of a day.
Yeah, I just finished up a little bit ago, and now I'm just starting to fill in the color.
Okay. And the color for the part that will resemble a cornice is a deep red. What kind of paint is it?
This is all oil base.
Okay. And then the top section, the base coat there is a beautiful teal green.
Yeah, this is what we're going to lay in.
Yeah. How long is it going to take to do all of this?
About 4 days.
And will the detailing also be stenciled, or is that hand painted?
I'm going to stencil it, but there's going to be a slight detail around the edges, just a freehand black line to bring out the gold.
Mm-hmm. And is the gold leaf, or is it...
No, we're not going to use gold leaf. We're going to use gold paint.
Sounds good to me. Can't wait to see it finished. Let's say hello to Greg Rockland, the architect who's done all the work
Bob,
here.
how are you?
Great. Now, much of what you designed relies on modern materials, right?
Yes, there's medium density overlay board here next to a custom molding.
Right.
And this is just a stock piece of wood from a lumberyard.
Right. And then on the floor?
Floor, it's a stock inlay against the existing flooring.
Mm-hmm. And yet it's little touches like this that bring the flavor of the 1890s back into this house.
Oh, definitely.
Well, I want to thank you personally for a magnificent job.
Thank you.
And before we kind of leave this area, about 10 months ago when we started, let's reminisce and look at some old footage. You got to admit, it doesn't read like an 1897 house when you walk in here. These architectural features are straight out of the 70s, like mirrors and the lack of moldings and the lack of chair rail, no detailing at all in here.
That's right, they stripped it all out, and I think it's be part of the project here to put it back.
Have you looked closely at this hutch?
This is a very nice piece of woodwork. It's buried under many layers of paint right now, but if this could be restored, it really would be quite a nice piece. At one time, as you can see from this stop, there were doors, probably glazed, in the top of this hutch, and I think we want to think about recreating those.
Well, it's the detailing that makes a huge difference in a Victorian house. This has all taken us 10 months from the time we started demolition to this point, and we're at the point now that we can celebrate the interior design. With us is Christine Lane and Suzanne Chonger from CLC Interior.
Hi, Bob.
Hi, ladies. How are you?
Nice to see you.
Let's talk a little bit about what you've done, because you helped us choose colors and wallpapers and furniture placement and carpet patterns and stuff. And here in the dining room, you talked us into a very busy wallpaper.
Right, and we think it looks spectacular.
I love it.
It's a very dense pattern. It works in a small room because it gives you a very intimate feeling. And we're broken up with an off-white color, which brings out the background of the wallpaper, and a beautiful green below, so it's not too busy. And then we've used red drapes to pick up the red berries in the wallpaper.
Let me just make one point, though. If you had a big room, you wouldn't want to use a paper like this, right?
It would be totally overwhelming and too busy.
Yeah, and it's expensive, so we used a small amount in a small room like this. Tell me about the drapery fabric.
Okay, this is a well-priced cotton chintz, and what we've done is a traversing drape, which means we've covered the pole in a fabric as well as the finials, and this fabric will go all the way across the window, which is about 10 yards, and we featured some beautiful goblet pleats named after a goblet.
Yeah, like a wine goblet. That's very nice.
That's right.
Yeah, what I loved about that was that it's $15 a yard, right?
Right.
And then in this corner, we had the only architectural feature that was in the house, but it was missing its upper doors. So we've recreated doors based on kind of the paneling design we had here, and we've stuck in some old blue and white pottery that I think really livens everything up.
It's a great touch.
Let's talk about the hall. The rug in the hall is one that we picked up on a trip. It's actually Russian, and you've used it as your palette inspiration here, right?
Yes, there's a lot of different reds in the carpet, and we used it in the William Morris wallpaper also.
And again, it's a pattern that unifies the entire space. It relates to the dining room and everywhere in the house.
That's right, and also you can see the blue in the rug and the Greek turnkey, which is repeated in the border in the runner. And it's a nice detail.
And these are the important things to unify an interior, to kind of have everything blend and relate to each other.
That's right.
You've done a great job. Thank you so
Bob.
much, Christine.
Thanks, Bob.
Suzanne,
It's
thanks
been a
lot.
pleasure.
And the one last touch that I love on the staircase is the anaglypta, this 19th century textured paper that we used along the wall here, which really is appropriate, I think. We got a break for messages. Don't go away. Okay, well, we're back and we're dealing with some of the original hardware in the house. Although much of the detail here was lost, the brasses were still here. And I suspect maybe 15, 20 years ago, Ryley, somebody came along and polished them up and lacquered them. And what happens is that the lacquer breaks down and you end up with this kind of a dull, chintzy looking finish. And we stripped these in lacquer thinner, and Greg, the architect, actually spent a lot of time buffing these on a jeweler's buffing wheel with jeweler's rouge, which is one way of getting them. This means you'll have to maintain them a couple times a year, but still they look perfect.
That's beautiful.
And you've even got the original screws here. Now, how do you put this back?
Well, I'll tell you, the key to this whole thing was the organization at the very beginning, because all this business went out in bags that were numbered, and then they come back at the tail end of the job, and they're back in the bag. And,
they were numbered. There was a complete schedule of every door in the house. This, of course, is the powder room door.
Right. This door was always here. But when we put it back in, it was a little larger than the hole, so we had to cut it down a bit. Anytime you're going to be cutting a door down, you want to cut it down from the hinge side so that our mortise is still intact.
Okay.
And when we put this mortise in, it's going to fit just like it did when it came out.
Exactly. Yeah, the reason the opening changed is that, of course, we've got new walls and we've got new door jambs and casings, and that means that essentially all these doors have to be rehung. Now you put the spindle from the knob through the escutcheon plate and, of course, just reset the knob. And you've got the original set screws and everything, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it really is important to keep all the parts together and not mix them up, because these are 100-year-old pieces. The threading might vary from one to the next. And what's the next step?
We just want to set the escutcheon plate.
Okay. And you're not going to use a level on that, you're actually going to measure.
Right, make sure it's exactly right here.
Good. Well, Bob, you've got another 30 of these to do, but I really appreciate all their help on the house.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
now,
you.
before we go in to look at the den, I want you to look at a piece of furniture that I've had for a long time, which is probably early 1800s, and it uses woods that were very popular then. Flame mahogany veneers, probably from the Caribbean islands, and a New England favorite, maple. In this case, it's tiger maple with all the banding. We're taking inspiration from this piece, and Kim is doing quite a job on the mantelpiece in the den. Come on in. So once again, we called Kim Sweet into the job to try to reproduce these woods. Hi, Kim.
Hi, Bob.
Now, have I challenged you sufficiently here?
I think so.
we had painted the mantel a red. and it's like you see on the baseboard here, and the baseboard hasn't been finished yet. And the walls, of course, had that red, and then Kim daubed them, or ragged them, I suppose is the term, to create this effect of kind of old leather. And then it occurred to me to try to do the woods, the mahogany and the tiger maple. Tell me about how you achieved this finish here, because this does approximate it pretty nicely.
Thanks. We started with a red base and then built up glazes, sort of umbers and blacks and browns, and just sort of worked on getting the brushes to move the way the grain of the wood would.
And of course the glazes are transparent, so that as you add to them you create this depth.
Exactly.
Now for the tiger maple then, did you have to paint a different base?
Yeah, you can just see a little bit left down here. This is sort of more of an ochre. We used a red for the mahogany and ochre for the tiger maple.
Ochre being a naturally occurring yellow, kind of a tan yellow color. And this is probably the harder of the woods to try to replicate, the tiger banding.
Yeah, it's got a lot less movement, and so to sort of make it look realistic without being too overdone is a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, well I like what you've done up towards the top band here already, where it's starting to look a little bit like bird's eye. And of course you have to keep the tape in place, right?
Yeah, the tape is great because it'll protect the edges that are already finished. So I'm not going to have to rework those seams when the tape comes down.
Well, Kim, you've done wonderful things around here. Thank you.
Thank you.
And of course, the room is unified with mahogany because we have a cornice that's built up out of mahogany, even the dental moldings, which are, again, something that's available from lumber yards. And when it turns the corner over to this wall, we have a beautifully crafted library wall. This is, again, the fellows at the shop at Fort Hill here in Boston who created all this woodwork out of solid mahogany. And the pilasters, which are fluted, take their kind of design key from what was already in the dining room hutch, little features like this. And the design of the whole thing is 3 stacks of books and then a central area where we can hide things like a fax machine. But I think one of the neatest parts of the whole room is the way that they decided to put the doors in. This was Gregory's idea. And create peace and quiet. Got a break for messages, don't go away. Joining us now is Greg Van Grover from the Ketchum Reflections Company. Hi, Greg.
Hi, Bob.
And we're talking shower doors here, huh?
Yes.
Now, how far along are you? Tell us what's happening.
Okay, right now we're finishing up. What we're doing is putting on a silicone sealant to seal this unit up, because this unit is not only going to be sealed for water leakage and seepage, it's also going to be sealed to hold steam, because this is a steam shower enclosure.
Right. And so that means that you have to put silicone in addition to the regular metal stripping that's going up against the wall.
Correct. We use silicone around the whole perimeter, and even in certain other instances, we're using magnets and weather stripping to also seal.
So the weather stripping is, as you see, right along the edge here.
Correct.
And won't it get a little bit too close in there? Don't you need to be able to vent this somewhat?
Yes. Well, what we did is we added a custom flip panel here. So what happens is after you take your steam, you can ventilate so you don't create mildew and too much moisture inside the shower. And on normal mornings when you take your shower and you're not taking your steam, you're in a rush, you can open that up and take a normal shower and it won't be too hot.
Excellent. Now what type of a finish is this on? Because the actual components are solid brass, aren't they?
Correct. They're solid brass, and inside each panel holding it together are solid brass corner blocks, which will prevent the unit from corroding inside and blowing up and coming apart. And this particular finish is brushed chrome, and we chose that to match your fixtures that are in the rest of the bathroom, because we will match the finishes that are available.
Now this is unusual though. Most often you see the shinier finishes, right?
Right. Most times you would see a polished chrome-plated brass, and that is because most fixtures that you see are polished chrome-plated brass. It's a most durable finish, and it holds up, and it's bright. And we did one like that in your wife's bath.
Exactly. Tell us about that one.
Now what we did was, since it's bigger and it's a little bit more open, in one of the joints we removed the vertical metal. And with that we were able to butt glaze the glass and open up the whole shower. So when you walk in, it's a very open appearance.
Now tell us a little bit about installations like this. This is really custom. It's not very easy, right?
It's very custom. It looks simple, but really it's not, because what happens is these units and the openings are designed by designers and architects. But since everything that you build, and especially with what you do, building older homes, not all the walls are true or plumb, or the angles be true or plumb. So what we do basically is we take the drawings and then we come out and we field measure it And we put levels on it to see if the walls lean out, because we will cut this out of square just to fit the opening and to fit your particular bath.
If you have to.
True,
Right.
we have to. And then what we do is we need factory trained installers, because these pieces will fit right in, but they have to know exactly where each piece goes to lay it out, so it is a very tight fit.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar with them. It's a work of art.
Right.
Thanks a lot, Craig.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we're going to go down to the basement now and look at some other fabulous gadgets. Come on. Now, one gadget that you really should have is a carbon monoxide detector. And this one's battery powered, so we don't really need the electrician to do it, but thanks for getting it up there, Barry.
No problem.
Now, you have done all the wiring in this house, every light fixture. I want to thank you for that and for sticking around for these. Why is this an important item to add?
Well, carbon monoxide is colorless and odorless, and you never know it's coming until it sneaks up on you and it's too late.
Exactly. And these, of course, can be tested and should be tested regularly. That tells you it's working, right?
Yep.
Good. Thanks, Barry.
No problem.
Now, I reserved 2 spaces in the basement for special purposes. One of them is a wine cellar, or cellarette. It's only about 8 by 8, but we're below grade, and we've got the old stone walls here, and one of my treats is this Marvell wine storage system for special bottles, or for party needs. You can chill about 4 cases of wine in each one of these, and you can keep all your Chardonnays and stuff for a party, and then you can also control humidity and temperature so that you can take good care of special red wines. Then on the other side of this area, I've got plenty of room for wood storage, and one of the key things that I wanted was to be able to get it up to the first floor easily. So there's a Canadian company called Bruce Fowler Industries that makes this WoodWaiter, and you can load it up. It's got a worm drive on either side so that it can really, really move a lot of firewood, and all it takes is about a minute, and it'll be in my living room. And of course, the firewood is right where you need it, in the corner of the living room, but just about 5 feet from our fireplace, so that it makes life pretty darn comfortable, huh? Now, you'll notice in this room, we've gone to pretty traditional color schemes. We have a kind of a vanilla color on the walls and a nice white trim. And the reason we did that was, well, a number of reasons. We have such strong colors in the hall and in the other rooms, and we have so many strong colors in our possessions. We love bright colors. The only piece of furniture that we really bought for this house was this terrific red sofa from Baker. And you know, when you love color like that, sometimes you really need to draw back. Architecturally, this room is interesting. It's got good proportions, lots of daylight. One big flaw that it had was, originally, if you remember, we had a kind of a 1970s ceiling treatment with a cove running around the entire perimeter of the room with little tiny lights everywhere. Very inappropriate for an 1890s house. And we put in a new ceiling and added this wooden crown molding around the entire perimeter to kind of give it the right sense. And of course, the last thing that you have to worry about in rooms like this is how to light them, because they're big and you need different types of lighting. So we've brought in the Lightalier dimming controls, the brilliance controls, so that we can have, say in an area like this, we can bring down the light just to the right intensity so that bright colors are not overpowering. And in another area where you might have a painting, you can do just the right kind of lighting. I'm real pleased with the way the house has come together. Got a break for messages. Don't go away. Well, now it's getting time to say goodbye again. After 10 months of actual work and 26 visits here at our house, the place is finally done, and I really want to thank all the people that really labored through lots of difficulties to make this happen for us. Also want to thank the neighbors who have had to live with lots of construction debris, construction trucks, and noise over the course of the last 10 months. That's it for this time. Till next time, I'm Bob Vila. It's good to have you home again.